Nicolas Jackson wasn't plan A, B, C, or even D. But is he really the answer to Newcastle's striker crisis? With Isak's future uncertain and the transfer shortlist falling apart, Newcastle's search for a striker has reached breaking point. So could Jackson be the signing that saves the club's season, or could he be the expensive mistake that defines it? We're going to deep dive into why Jackson's profile should excite and worry Newcastle fans at the same time, how his style compares to Alexander Isak, and the biggest issue with Jackson's potential transfer to Newcastle United. Now, Nicolas Jackson only just turned 24 this summer and could be about to enter his prime years as a striker in the Premier League. If you look at his goals and assists over the past couple seasons, he scored 17 goals and got 5 assists in his first season with Chelsea, and then scored 13 goals and 5 assists just last season, but with less minutes under his belt. And if you look at his league goals only over the past 3 seasons, the last one with Villarreal and the next 2 with Chelsea, he scored 12, 14 and 10 league goals. That's 36 league goals over 3 seasons, and the most impressive bit about that is that he was 21, 22 and 23 years old during those campaigns. And during this time, he's adjusting to a new country, a new league, new teammates, higher expectations at Chelsea compared to Villarreal, and 2 new managers with 2 different styles of play. Now, I've watched a lot of footage of Nicolas Jackson, and one of the most impressive areas of his game is his hold-up play and his ability to link play with his teammates. And if you look at this example here against Konate, again, you've got to look at the caliber of opposition from these clips I'm about to show you. He's doing it against some of the best centre-backs in the league. And as Enzo Fernandez plays this ball into his feet, it's not the easiest ball to deal with. It's fizzed into him. He traps the ball close, but what Konate tries to do is get up amongst him, try and press him on his first touch, unsettle him with that physicality, but Jackson just doesn't allow it to happen. He's so good at timing that shift of the ball, just scanning his shoulder to see when the defender's coming in and timing it impeccably well, and just maneuvering that ball away from Konate before he can even lay a glove on him. Salah tries to come in on the cover and he shrugs him off, and Konate tries to come back in for a second bite, try and win that tackle off Jackson, but it's that ability to carry the ball forward with pace once he's turned from his back to goal, facing the opposition goal, that is so good. And he just drives away from that whole situation and opens up the pitch for Chelsea. But he's not afraid to use physicality when holding up the ball if needed. And in this example against Man City, Cole Palmer fires this ball into him. Pacey, bouncy, and he traps the ball so well with his first touch. But Akanji reads how difficult this pass is into him, and he tries to get in front of him, tries to use that physicality to bump him as he's making that first touch, but Nicolas Jackson just throws him off the ball. Literally just uses that strength to maneuver him to the side, uses his right foot to cut the ball into a safe area, and then he's off, driving at that back line again, and he's got that quality of pass in behind. Just threads it through in between that gap left by Kanji into Nkunku's. And you can see this pattern of play happening at Newcastle. You know, maneuvering the defender off the ball and threading in the likes of Gordon, Barnes down that left-hand side, or Elanga. And there's another strength from Nicolas Jackson's that would suit Newcastle's side of play perfectly. And the best way for me to show you is in the game against Liverpool, away at Anfield. And as Gusto has this ball at left back, he threads it into Caicedo, and it's that timing and movement of the ball that is such a threat for opposition players. You can see as Caicedo picks up this ball, he spins directly in between Van Dijk and Konate. They don't know whether to hold the line or try and track the run in behind, but they do neither. They play him onside, and Caicedo just plays a lovely ball around Van Dijk, and then it's that composure in front of goal that was impressive in this example. He just threads it into that bottom right-hand corner. It's a finish he loves, bit of a trademark finish. He doesn't aim to the bottom left-hand corner like some strikers do. He likes to thread it into that bottom right-hand corner, but it's that movement in behind, both into the channels and directly through the heart of the defence, that's so threatening for Nicolas Jackson. And here he is against Brentford in a transition moment, again another trademark of Newcastle's style of play under Eddie Howe. And as Caicedo wins this ball back, he's about to play that pass into Enzo Fernandez. You can see Nicolas Jackson in that central area offering for a pass, but as soon as he sees that pass go into Enzo Fernandez, the quality of the run, Nathan Collins is out of position and he spins and makes that curve run into that right hand side channel. And in this case, Pinnock, he squares him up, takes him on 1v1, creates just a yard of space, and he just threads it again, that trademark finish into that bottom right hand corner rather than going across goal. And it's a beautiful finish, beautiful run, and that's the kind of threat he has both in build up and in transition moments. And he loves to work hard off the ball. And again, In an Eddie Howe system that loves to press high, we need Alexander Isak's replacement to be a good presser off the ball with high work rate. And if you look at the stats, since his first game for Chelsea, he had 0.82 possessions won in the attacking third. That's in the top 20 for the division over that period. But even though he works hard, he does have a lack of discipline when he's on the pitch. If you remember that red card against Newcastle last season in the Champions League playoff at St James's Park, that swung the momentum in favour of Newcastle. And if you look at the stats from the 2023-24 season, he picked up 10 yellow cards. Only one of them was for committing a foul. The rest was for dissent, not retreating when there's a free kick, and it's an area of his game that needs to improve, but he has the raw ingredients to be a good striker in the Premier League. Now, with all that being said, there's one problem I have to highlight when it comes to Jackson's game, and that is his efficiency in front of goal. Now, if you look at the finishing data for Nicolas Jackson on FBref, you can see that the number of shots he takes, the shots on target, and the shots on target percentage are of a healthy level, all between the 78th and 89th percentile. But when we go deeper than that, it gets a bit more worrying. If you look at the amount of goals he scores per shot he takes, he's in the 37th percentile. And even worrying than that, when the shot is on target, he's on the 21st percentile for the amount of goals he scores. And that's a big worry, especially when we've relied so heavily on Alexander Isak's goals. And it's not just long range strikes from outside the box, some overhead kicks, tricky headers. They are big chances that he's missing. And he missed 0.8 big chances per game last season. That's close to one big chance per game. And if you look at this game against Liverpool from his first season at the club, you can see that he does all the right work to get himself in the right position, but it's that lack of quality once he gets there. As this ball is played in behind to Reece James's overlapping run, look how good Nicolas Jackson's movement is here. Again, he does everything right to get in a good position against one of the best in the league in Konate. He makes a little dummy run on his blind side just when Konate can't see him, and Konate has to go with that first run. But he's doing that to set up the second run, which he makes to the near post. And he's reading all the crossing triggers, timing it perfectly for Reece James to get his head up and see that second movement. And it's a beautiful cross in the box, but it's what he does once he gets there. He's done all the hard work to create a couple yards of space, but it's that first time finish that he just skies over the bar. And this is the kind of situation that he's missing on a regular basis. So the big question becomes, if Newcastle do get Nicolas Jackson, how can Eddie Howe make him more clinical? And I think there's a couple areas he can do it. The first being better shot selection. The one thing I noticed about Nicolas Jackson's finishing ability is that when he chooses power to drive with his laces anywhere on the pitch, he lacks that control and accuracy over the ball. And in this game against Aston Villa, he's threading in behind. He's got that time and space as he's approaching it to think about what he has to do, which sometimes can be a problem for Nicolas Jackson. And as he approaches it, he decides to drive with his laces and he's just totally off balance, driving it and skying it fully over the bar, and it's just a poor finish. And we have to accept that he doesn't have that clinical nature to his finishing ability. And this situation sums it up more than any clip I've shown so far. Threading in behind against Arsenal by Madueke, 1v1 with the keeper, basically shown the left-hand side of the goal, and he could choose to drive it into the bottom left-hand corner, into the top left-hand corner, but what does he decide to do? He attempts a finish at the near post. Look at his body shape, just off balance, and the execution is probably just as bad as the decision making. Into the side netting, not even testing the keeper. And we have to accept that if we were to buy Jackson, he's going to miss some big chances and hopefully he scores more than he misses. But let's be clear, Newcastle will be downgrading with pretty much any striker they buy this summer. So what are the similarities and the differences between Alexander Isak and Nicolas Jackson? If we want to analyse the style of play of both of these players, look at the heat maps from last season. Very similar between the both of them, like to be that threat in the box, but like to cause havoc outside the box, in the central areas in that traditional number 10, in the half spaces, even drifting out to the wide areas. And you can see why they're so stylistically similar in terms of where they like to pop up on the pitch. When you look at the data radar from FBref and you use your own scouting knowledge, that eye test when you watch both of these players, there's a clear difference in terms of their finesse and their technical level. If you look at the progressive passes, carries, and successful take-ons, Alexander Isak is of an elite level, a very skillful player, whereas Nicolas Jackson maybe bumbles his way through games at times. He does have that ability though. If you look at progressive passes, it doesn't quite show exactly what Nicolas Jackson does. Maybe he doesn't do it as much, which is why he's in the lower percentiles for this statistic. But if you remember that Man City game I showed you earlier, where he rolled a Kanje and then threaded that through ball in behind for Nkunku, you can see he does have that ability. He just doesn't do it as much as Alexander Isak. But the underlying data for their finishing ability is so interesting. Look at the non-penalty expected goals. It's crazy. You can see they're very similar in the amount of chances they're getting and the XG that they should be getting at the end of the season. But it's Alexander Isak that has that cleaner output, that efficiency in front of goal. But look at the shot creating actions, expected assisted goals. There's not too much dissimilarity between these two players. And it's something that's so exciting if you are a Newcastle fan as to what can be achieved from Nicolas Jackson's game. But you also have to admit there's a clear step down between Alexander Isak and Nicolas Jackson. But that brings me on to the real problem with this transfer and something all Newcastle fans are wary about. We can see Nicolas Jackson and how he would fit into this Newcastle system under Eddie Howe and that coaching ability to bring the best out of him. But the transfer fee, 70, 80, 90 million pounds being quoted across all sources, is crazy money, and it's because Newcastle had that money to spend on the likes of Ekatike. And you have to think, what would Chelsea realistically sell him for, and what would Newcastle be happy to pay? And it's probably around that 60 to 70 million pounds. If you think about what Chelsea paid for him, 37 million euros. His contract ends in 2033, which is a sticking point, especially when you're trying to get them out of a club. And you think, Chelsea don't have to sell, but they will want to sell. With Delap and João Pedro there, you can't have Nicolas Jackson as your third choice. It won't be good for the squad morale. And you have to think, especially with Wissa being strongly linked to a move, that will be two players away at AFCON in that December and January period. It's not the best squad planning, and that's why I think if they get Wissa, they might not go for Nicolas Jackson. And although he seems raw and his finishing remains inconsistent, his ability to make runs off the ball for himself and others, his hold-up play and link play, and his ability to get into great goal-scoring positions make him an underrated potential signing at Newcastle United. And let me know down in the comments, what would you realistically pay for Nicolas Jackson? Do you think he would be a good signing for Newcastle United? If you like this video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Another video will be around me somewhere, and I'll see you on the next episode of A Game in Two Halves.